The alien council waited in silence, their massive forms filling the great chamber like mountains made of shimmering metal and living crystal. Each member had skin that seemed to shift with light, and eyes that burned like molten stars. They had traveled far across the galaxy, seen countless species, and negotiated peace and war many times. Diplomacy, they thought, was always predictable. Words, gestures, and polite agreements. That was the way intelligent life survived together or failed. But then the human ship arrived. It appeared first as a distant shadow in space, unremarkable to the untrained eye. Yet as it drew closer, the council realized it was unlike anything they had ever seen. Not fragile or delicate like other species' diplomatic vessels, it was immense, black as the void itself, sleek yet imposing. Its surface shimmered with strange energy that seemed almost alive. Silent weapons bristled along its hull, and the pulse of power it gave off made even the council's most ancient members feel uneasy. The ship did not just travel through space, it seemed to dominate it, bending the void around itself as if space itself bowed to its presence. Sither, the oldest member of the council, raised a trembling appendage. This is your diplomatic envoy?" His voice carried through the chamber, low and rough like grinding stone. A human voice answered, calm and steady, echoing through the council's telepathic networks. "We come in peace, and yet, if we are forced to fight, we do not retreat." Silence fell again, heavier than before. The council had studied humans from afar, watched their struggles on a fragile planet called Earth, and cataloged them as primitive, small, and limited. But this single ship contradicted every prediction, every data point, every expectation they held about humanity. Fear, subtle but undeniable, rippled through the chamber. When the ship docked, its doors opened slowly, like a massive predator revealing its teeth. From within, humans emerged. They were ordinary in appearance, men and women in simple uniforms carrying no visible weapons, their hands empty. And yet their presence filled the room like a storm. There was a confidence in their stride, a calm certainty in their gaze that no alien being had ever witnessed. They did not cower, they did not bow. They simply stood as if the galaxy itself had no power over them. The council exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected polite words, cautious smiles, nervous greetings. Instead, they faced beings who seemed to carry the weight of stars in their hearts. Commander Lyra, the human ambassador, stepped forward. Her eyes were steady, blue and bright, yet hard as diamonds. She looked at each member of the council in turn, without fear, without hesitation. "Greetings," she said simply. Her voice was calm, but every word carried an unspoken warning. "We have come to speak. We have come to understand. But we will not be ignored. And we will not step aside if our lives or the lives of others are threatened." The council could not hide their unease. Even the youngest member, a creature whose skin flickered with every emotion, felt a chill. Humanity had brought a warship to a diplomatic meeting, a ship built not only to protect but to dominate. Its design alone was terrifying. Its presence alone was a challenge, and yet there was something more. It was not just fear that the humans inspired. It was awe, respect. Even the oldest members of the council felt a strange, unexplainable pull toward them. These beings were fragile in appearance, yes, but their will was unbreakable. The energy radiating from the ship and its crew was not just mechanical. It was moral, emotional, a living statement that humanity would not be subdued. Lyra took a step closer. "We do not wish for war. We do not wish for conquest. But we will protect ourselves and all those who cannot protect themselves. We come to speak. We come to negotiate. But make no mistake, our patience is not infinite." Sither swallowed hard. You are bold." Lyra's lips curled into a faint, calm smile. "We are human." The room fell silent again, but now the silence was different. It was no longer just fear, it was the recognition of a new power. Not numbers, not size, not ancient technology. A power born of courage, unity, and an unshakable resolve. The council realized that diplomacy with humans would not be simple. It would not be predictable. And it would not follow the rules that governed the rest of the galaxy. The humans had arrived, ordinary in appearance, extraordinary in spirit. And the galaxy had not yet begun to understand what that truly meant. The council had expected humans to be nervous, cautious, even timid. They had imagined long debates, hesitant gestures, and careful bargaining. Diplomacy, after all, was a dance all intelligent species performed. But the humans, standing boldly on the black deck of their immense ship, defied every expectation. Commander Lyra moved slowly toward the council's center, her uniform crisp and unwrinkled, her face calm yet sharp. Her eyes did not sweep nervously over the room. They held the council's gaze, meeting each alien stare with unflinching resolve. There was no arrogance in her voice when she spoke. Only truth, quiet and absolute. "We have observed your fleets," she said. "We have studied your laws and your technologies, and we have decided what we want." She paused, letting the words settle. "We do not want your technology. We do not seek your alliances. We offer one thing, peace. And one warning. Test us and we will respond with force beyond what you have ever imagined," the council murmured. They had faced threats before. Entire fleets had trembled at their commands. But something about this human, the way she said these words, steady and unafraid, sent chills through even the oldest members. Vryn, a tall alien whose crystal spine shimmered with every movement, leaned forward. "Force, against us? You are a tiny species. Your homeworld barely scratches the surface of the galaxy. Do you truly believe you can stand against us?" Lyra's lips curved slightly, a faint, calm smile that did not reach her eyes. "It is not size that matters. It is courage, unity, the will to survive and the will to protect. You see us as small. We see ourselves as guardians." The council shifted uneasily. They had catalogued humans extensively. They had observed their wars on Earth, their fragile civilizations and their limited technology. Yet now, standing before them, humans radiated something no machine, no weapon, no strategy could measure. They radiated strength, not just physical but moral. Not just might but willpower. Seether, the oldest member, spoke carefully. "Your words are bold, dangerous even. Why should we believe that your peace is anything more than a threat in disguise?" Lyra's gaze softened, but only slightly. "Because we have no desire for war. But we also have no desire to be conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. If peace is offered, we will embrace it. If war is forced upon us, then we will protect what is ours and what cannot protect itself." The council could not hide their unease. The humans were not making idle threats. Their words were not empty promises. Every step Lyra took, every pause in her voice, seemed to echo a larger truth. These beings were not fragile. They were not weak, and their resolve was terrifying. Another council member, Siller, whose voice was a low hum like a distant storm, whispered, "They do not speak like other species. Their power is not in fleets or weapons. Their power is in their hearts." Lyra noticed the whispers but did not react. She continued, her tone firm but fair. "We are capable of great destruction. We are capable of great mercy. We are capable of protecting life and ending threats to it. That is our choice. That is humanity. And that is why we are here today. To offer understanding before conflict becomes necessary." The room fell silent, heavier than before. The council had expected humans to beg, to bargain, to negotiate timidly. They had expected fear. Instead, they faced calm, fearless determination, the kind that could topple empires and reshape worlds. For the first time, the council began to wonder, had they underestimated humanity? Had they misjudged a species they believed to be small, fragile, and limited? Vryn's tentacles twitched nervously. "And this ship? The power it holds? Do you claim you will not use it unless provoked?" Lyra's smile widened faintly, calm and chilling. "Yes, this ship is not for conquest. It is a promise. A promise that we will not yield to threats, and a promise that we will defend life, no matter the cost. But if you or anyone tests that promise, then you will see the consequences." Even as her words echoed through the chamber, the council felt it. The humans were not bluffing. The ship itself seemed to pulse with their will, alive in a way no machine had ever been. Its power was not just physical, it was emotional, moral, unstoppable. Seether's ancient mind tried to process it, but reason failed. This species, small and seemingly fragile, radiated something no weapon could contain: courage, unity, and an unyielding refusal to surrender. And in that moment, the council realized a truth that would haunt them forever. They were no longer speaking with a species. They were speaking with a force of nature, one that could not be ignored, tamed, or controlled. Humanity had arrived calm, fearless, and unshakable, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The council had been uneasy ever since the humans arrived. They whispered among themselves, debating quietly in ways that the humans could not hear. They had seen courage in other species, yes, but never like this. Humans stood tall in the face of what the galaxy considered impossible. They did not shrink. They did not bargain with fear. They simply existed with a will that defied expectation. After hours of secret discussion, the council decided to test the humans. It was meant to be a simple, controlled experiment. A small remote moon in the outskirts of their territory would be attacked by a simulation fleet, one designed to test how the humans would respond. If they were truly peaceful, the humans would retreat, submit, or negotiate. If they were dangerous, the humans would fight. The humans, as always, were calm. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of their ship, looking out into the vast blackness of space. Her crew moved efficiently, silently, each step precise. Nothing about them hinted at fear. Nothing hinted at hesitation. The council initiated the test. Massive simulation ships surged toward the remote moon, their engines roaring like thunder in the void. The simulation fleet was designed to be formidable, capable of overwhelming almost any single ship. Most species, when faced with such a threat, would have yielded. They would have retreated, sending messages of surrender or negotiation. But humanity did not. Lyra's fingers hovered over the control panel, and then, with calm precision, she gave the orders. The human ship shifted in space, moving not like a machine but like a living creature. Shields rippled outward, energy flaring in patterns no alien weapon had ever encountered. Missiles approached, but the ship intercepted them mid-flight, dismantling threats with incredible speed. The simulation fleet's attacks were countered with exacting precision. On the council screens, every move was visible. Aliens in the chamber gasped, whispered, and shuffled uneasily. This was not a simple defense. This was an assertion of power that no simulation had ever recorded. The ship's energy flowed with intelligence, responding faster than the eye could follow. And yet, despite its deadly precision, it did not strike recklessly. It avoided unnecessary destruction, sparing simulated lives wherever possible. Lyra spoke softly to her crew. Remember why we fight. Protect life even in a simulation. Victory without purpose is meaningless. Let them see what humanity values. The council's youngest member, a being whose body flickered with colors like a storm, leaned forward, whispering to no one in particular. They do not fight for territory. They fight for something else, something beyond comprehension. Hours passed and the test ended. The simulation fleet lay destroyed in every tactical report, unable to breach a single layer of the human ship's defenses. Not a single human life had been lost. Not a single unnecessary strike had been made. Lyra activated the communications channel to the council. Her voice was calm, even gentle, but every word carried weight. We did not seek this battle. We did not ask for conflict. But we will not allow aggression. Peace is our choice. Survival is our duty. Threaten either, and you will see why humanity is both feared and respected. The council members stared at their screens, unable to respond immediately. They had studied humans for decades. They had cataloged every weakness, every tendency, and yet nothing in their data had prepared them for this. The humans were not reckless. They were not naive. They were precise, deliberate, and yet capable of awe-inspiring power. Sither, the eldest of the council, finally spoke, his voice trembling. We underestimated you. Your courage, it is beyond calculation, your will. It is unlike anything we have ever known. How can a species so small wield such power? Lyra's calm blue eyes met his through the communication link. We are small, yes. Fragile, yes. But we are also united. We are also determined. We fight not because we desire war, but because we value life and we will never bow to threats. That is what makes us dangerous. The council members felt something they had never felt before. Awe mixed with fear. This was not just a demonstration of military power. It was a revelation. Humans had brought something into the galaxy that no weapon, no fleet, no strategy could replace. The courage to face impossible odds, the unity to stand together, and the will to protect what they valued most. Even the council members who had been proud, confident and unshakable felt it, a quiet, gnawing respect for a species that had just redefined strength. They had tested humanity expecting weakness. Instead, they had seen something greater. The human spirit in its purest form, unyielding, unbroken, and more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. The humans had passed the test. But the Council knew deep in their hearts that this was only the beginning. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy not just to negotiate, but to change everything. And nothing, not fear, not arrogance, not centuries of alien dominance, would ever be the same again. After the test, the Council retreated to their private chambers, whispering furiously. The humans had surprised them. They had expected fear, hesitation, or at least compromise. Instead, they faced calm, unwavering courage. Humanity did not ask for dominance. It did not demand tribute. Yet the Council realized something terrifying. Humans would not yield. Zither paced the chamber, his crystalline body reflecting fractured light. They are not what we expected. This is beyond diplomacy. This is a force we cannot contain. Siller, whose voice was a low, vibrating hum, added, "We have underestimated them, their unity, their courage. It is frightening. They do not fight for power, they fight for principle. That is something we cannot calculate or control." The Council decided they must warn the humans. If they were to maintain any influence, any respect from this tiny species, they had to set boundaries clearly. But even as they prepared their message, unease swept through the room. How do you warn a species that does not fear? How do you intimidate a being whose strength is moral, emotional, and absolute? Meanwhile, on the human ship, Commander Lyra and her crew prepared to hear the Council's response. Their routine was calm, deliberate, and precise. There was no anxiety, no fear, no hesitation. The crew had been trained for countless scenarios, but none required the courage of knowing they were being judged not for power, but for the very essence of their spirit. The communication channel activated. The Council's representative spoke, their voice trembling slightly despite centuries of experience. "Humans, you have demonstrated power beyond our expectations. But the galaxy is not forgiving. You cannot move freely without consequences. You must be cautious. We warn you, your actions have drawn attention. Do not underestimate the complexity of forces you face." Lyra's blue eyes met the speaker's, calm yet piercing. "We do not underestimate anyone. But we also do not compromise our principles. We will move as we choose. We will explore, we will negotiate, and we will defend life wherever it is threatened. You may see us as reckless. We see ourselves as responsible. That is the difference." The Council fell silent. Some trembled at her words. Others felt a gnawing, inexplicable respect. Humanity had not only survived the test, they had redefined the rules of engagement. They had shown that courage, unity, and moral strength were far more dangerous than any fleet or weapon. Jither whispered to himself, "They do not bow. They do not beg. They do not fear, and yet, they do not seek conquest. How can a species be both fragile and unstoppable?" Lyra's voice continued, gentle but firm. "We will respect life. We will respect peace. But understand this, if aggression comes to us, we will answer. If threats come to the innocent, we will intervene. And if the galaxy believes it can intimidate humanity, it will learn why courage is the greatest weapon of all." The Council began to realize something profound. The humans' power was not measured in firepower, fleet size, or technology. It was measured in will, the courage to face impossibility, the determination to protect others, and the refusal to surrender. This was power the galaxy had never encountered before. Vryn, normally cold and calculating, muttered in disbelief. "They are terrifying. Not in the way we expected. Not in the way a weapon terrifies. They are terrifying because they will never back down. They will never yield. They will never compromise their values." And the humans, standing calmly aboard their ship, were listening to every word. They did not flinch, did not grow anxious, did not react with fear. Instead, they understood the warning, nodded silently to each other, and prepared to continue their journey with unwavering resolve. Lyra turned to her crew. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to protect. But if protection requires us to fight, then fight we will, always for the right reasons. Always for those who cannot defend themselves." The Council watched, their fear mingling with respect. They had tried to warn humanity. They had tried to assert boundaries. And yet the humans' calm defiance, their moral strength, and their courage had left the Council uncertain, intimidated, and strangely reverent. The warning had been delivered, but it had changed nothing. Humanity would continue to move forward, guided by courage and principle, and the Council, for the first time, understood that they were dealing not with a species that could be negotiated with easily, but with a force that would reshape the galaxy itself. The galaxy had expected caution. It had expected compromise. But humanity had arrived with a will stronger than any weapon, a spirit that could not be broken, and a courage that no threat could diminish. And in that realization, the Council feared not just humanity's strength, they feared its heart. The warning had been delivered. The Council had hoped it would bring hesitation, perhaps caution. But humans did not pause. They did not falter. They continued their journey through the galaxy, exploring sectors that had never known their presence, and leaving a ripple of awe wherever they passed. Then came the first real test. A rogue fleet, a collection of mercenaries and opportunistic species, decided to challenge humanity. They assumed the humans would flee, negotiate, or surrender under overwhelming force. They did not understand. They had underestimated not only the ship but the spirit that guided it. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the console, eyes scanning the approaching fleet. The crew moved around her with quiet efficiency. They were ready, not with fear but with resolve. "This is their choice," Lyra said softly. "They have chosen aggression. Our response will be measured, precise, and necessary." The rogue fleet fired first. Bright streaks of energy tore across the void, aimed at the human ship with deadly intent. But the humans were prepared. Shields flared instantly, absorbing the attacks with almost surgical precision. Countermeasures activated, intercepting missiles and projectiles before they could even reach the hull. The ship moved like a living being, twisting and sliding through space in ways that defied the laws of physics, its dark surface reflecting the fire of incoming weapons. The aliens observing from the Council's surveillance channels gasped. They had seen fleets maneuver with incredible skill, but never with this kind of intelligence. The human ship responded instantly to every threat, yet its movements were not mindless. Each action had purpose, precision, and restraint. It destroyed only what was necessary, sparing those who could be left unharmed. Lyra's voice cut through the comms, calm but authoritative. "Engage only what must be engaged. Protect life wherever possible. Victory without conscience is meaningless." The crew obeyed without question, their unity a living thing. Each human acted not just with skill but with understanding. They anticipated enemy tactics, countered every maneuver, and yet did not strike with unnecessary force. Their ship was a storm made of both metal and heart, and the rogue fleet quickly learned the cost of underestimating humanity. Explosions lit the void, bright against the blackness of space, yet the human ship moved like a shadow, untouchable, unyielding. One by one, the rogue ships fell, not with blind destruction but with careful precision. Humanity fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for the principle that life, innocent life, must be protected. The Council, watching in silence, began to feel the full weight of what they had witnessed. They had studied humans for centuries. They had catalogued every weakness. They had assumed small size meant weakness, small numbers meant vulnerability, but here was proof. Humans did not measure strength by numbers or technology alone. They measured it by courage, unity, and determination. Vryn, normally composed and analytical, could not hide his awe. They fight like no other species, not for conquest, not for power, but for something higher, something impossible to understand. Lyra's gaze swept over the battlefield from the bridge. "This is why we exist," she said softly. "To protect those who cannot protect themselves. To face aggression with courage. To never yield even when the odds are impossible." And then, it was over. The rogue fleet had been neutralized. Not a single human life was lost. Not a single action was taken without purpose. The human ship, massive and black as the void, floated silently among the wreckage, a monument to precision, courage, and restraint. The Council convened afterward, trembling. Even their oldest members could not hide the mixture of fear and respect. They had tried to warn humanity. They had expected hesitation. They had expected diplomacy to prevail. But what they had witnessed was not just military power, it was the human spirit in action. It was moral, emotional, and unstoppable. Zither's voice trembled as he spoke to his peers. "We underestimated them. They are not simply a species. They are a force, not just of strength, but of conscience. A will that will not bend, a courage that will not break. We have never seen anything like this. Lyra turned to her crew, calm but proud. We do not fight for pride. We do not fight for revenge. We fight because it is right. That is what makes us human. That is what gives us power beyond technology, beyond fleets, beyond numbers. That is why the galaxy must understand us. The Council realized the truth they had feared. Humans were not like other species. They were extraordinary in a way the galaxy had not anticipated. And now, having faced aggression and survived with integrity, they had sent a clear message. Humanity would protect life. Humanity would defend its principles. And humanity could not be ignored. The confrontation was over, but its consequences were just beginning. The galaxy had expected a diplomatic meeting. It had received a revelation. The most dangerous ship in the galaxy was not its weapons, its size, or its speed. It was the heart and spirit of the humans who commanded it. And that spirit would leave an imprint on every star, every council, and every species it touched for generations to come. The council had gathered again, this time not in the grand chamber where negotiations were meant to occur, but in a more secluded private space. The air was thick with unease, and every member knew that their previous assumptions about humanity had been shattered. They had expected caution, compromise, and fear. Instead, they had witnessed courage, precision, and a calm determination that defied everything they thought they knew. Zither, the eldest member, paced slowly. His crystalline body shimmered with fragmented light, reflecting both doubt and awe. "We came here expecting diplomacy," he murmured. "We assumed humans would bow, bargain, or beg. What we have seen is something else entirely. They do not seek conquest, yet they are unstoppable. They do not fear, yet they respect life. How is this possible?" Siller, whose skin flickered like a stormy sky, spoke quietly, almost to himself. "It is not their weapons. It is not their ship. It is their spirit, the way they stand, the way they act. There is something in them that cannot be broken, something we have never encountered." The Council had always measured power in fleets, technology, or ancient wisdom. They had never considered that a species' greatest weapon could be its courage, its unity, and its unwavering moral will. But humanity had shown them exactly that. On the human ship, Commander Lyra stood on the bridge, calm and focused as her crew prepared for the next phase of their journey. Despite the recent confrontation, there was no fear, no celebration, no arrogance. The humans did not fight for glory, they fought for principle. That principle was clear, unwavering, and visible to anyone who watched closely. Lyra's communicator hummed softly. The Council's representative appeared on the screen, their expression a mixture of fear, respect, and hesitation. "Humans, we have spoken many times, yet we feel unprepared. Your actions, your courage. It is unlike anything in the galaxy. We must admit we have underestimated you." Lyra's calm blue eyes met theirs. "We do not seek your fear, and we do not demand your respect. We seek understanding. We act because it is right, because it is necessary, because we cannot ignore injustice or danger. That is humanity. That is why we act with such determination." The Council listened, each member quietly absorbing the truth. For centuries they had negotiated, fought, and ruled, believing their strategies and fleets made them the most formidable forces in the galaxy. But humans had shown them that true power was not measured in size, numbers, or even weapons. True power was measured in courage. The courage to face impossible odds, the courage to protect the weak, and the courage to stand unflinching in the face of danger. Vryn, whose normally confident posture now seemed tense, whispered, "They are terrifying, not because they destroy, but because they cannot be broken. They are alive with a force we cannot control or contain." Lyra turned to her crew, her voice soft but resolute. "This is why we exist. We protect life. We defend those who cannot defend themselves. We do not seek war, but we will face it when necessary. And in all things we remain human, principled, united, and unyielding." The Council, for the first time, truly understood the depth of humanity's strength. It was not in their weapons or their ship. It was in their hearts, their unity, and their refusal to bow to fear or oppression. This was a species unlike any other. A species that could change the balance of the galaxy without ever seeking power. Shither finally spoke, his voice steady but tinged with reverence. "We came expecting to negotiate terms. Instead, we have witnessed a force of nature, not a weapon, not a fleet, but a spirit. One that will not bend, one that will not break. We must respect it whether we understand it or not. Lyra's calm smile was faint, almost imperceptible. Respect is earned through understanding. We do not demand it. We only act with courage, with principle, and with purpose. That is enough for those who wish to see it clearly. The council members were silent, each reflecting on what they had witnessed. Humanity had arrived not as a simple species seeking alliances, but as a revelation. They had taught the galaxy that courage, unity, and principle could be stronger than fleets, faster than weapons, and more enduring than centuries of experience. For the first time, fear and awe intertwined. The council recognized that humans were not just another species. They were an example of something greater, something extraordinary, something impossible to ignore. As the human ship glided silently through the void, the council knew that the galaxy had changed, not because of the size of the ship, nor the weapons it carried, but because of the hearts and minds of those who commanded it. Humanity had proven that it could stand unflinching against any threat, and that alone demanded respect. And in that quiet understanding, the galaxy learned a new truth. Courage, principle, and unity were the most dangerous forces of all, and humanity had them in abundance. The galaxy had changed. No one spoke it aloud, but every council member, every fleet commander, every species that had once considered humans insignificant, knew the truth. Humanity was no longer just a small species on a fragile planet. Humanity was a force, unbroken, unyielding, and impossible to ignore. The human ship sailed silently through the void, black as the darkness between stars, bristling with power yet moving with grace. Inside, Commander Lyra and her crew worked as always, precise, calm, efficient, and united. There was no pride in their victory, no arrogance in their strength. They did not fight to dominate. They fought because it was right. They protected life because life deserved protection. And they explored the galaxy not for conquest but for understanding. The council watched, still in awe, as the humans moved beyond the sectors they had first encountered. Zaether, the eldest member, leaned forward, his crystalline form trembling slightly. We expected diplomacy. We expected negotiation. What we received is something greater, something extraordinary. Humanity is not just powerful. They are remarkable. In courage, in unity, in heart, Siller added softly. We have studied every species. We have catalogued every fleet. But we have never seen a force like this, a species whose power comes from something unseen, something we cannot calculate, their spirit. Lyra's voice echoed softly through the ship's intercom, not just to her crew but to the galaxy, through channels the council could intercept. We do not seek fear. We do not seek to conquer. We do not desire fame or tribute. We exist to protect life, to face injustice, and to stand for what is right. If the galaxy learns one thing about humanity, let it be this. We will never retreat, we will never surrender, and we will never abandon what is good and just. The council members felt the weight of her words. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, not with arrogance, not with greed, but with purpose. And that purpose was terrifying in its clarity. Every species began to take note. Stories spread of the human ship, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a protector, a symbol of courage. Entire fleets paused in respect. Diplomatic channels shifted. The whispers grew. The humans, they do not fight for power. They fight for principle. Even the rogue fleets that had dared to challenge humanity now thought twice. Some whispered quietly, "We cannot defeat them. We cannot intimidate them. We can only hope to survive and learn from them." Lyra walked among her crew, her calm presence steadying those around her. "Remember why we fight," she said quietly. "We fight for life. We fight for justice. We fight because we must. Our strength is not in our weapons, not in our ship, but in our hearts and our unity. That is what makes us unstoppable." The crew nodded silently, feeling the weight and honor of their duty. They were ordinary people, yet they had become legends. They had rewritten what the galaxy understood about power, courage, and morality. The council, for the first time, felt something they had never experienced before. Respect mingled with fear, awe mixed with humility. Zaether, usually stern and unyielding, spoke softly to his peers. "We thought diplomacy was the measure of strength. We were wrong. Humanity teaches us a new lesson. Courage is stronger than treaties, unity is stronger than fleets, and the will to protect is stronger than fear itself. Lyra's voice carried once more calm, steady, and resolute. We do not wish to dominate. We do not wish to rule, but if life is threatened, if innocence is in danger, if darkness rises, we will stand. We will fight. We will protect. That is humanity. That is why we are here. That is why we will always endure. And as the human ship disappeared into the endless black of space, it left more than a trail of energy. It left a message, written in the hearts and minds of every species that had witnessed it. The galaxy had met something new, something extraordinary. Humanity was not just a species to be catalogued. Humanity was a revelation. Centuries would pass, and stories of that ship and the courage of the humans aboard it would spread through the galaxy. Young beings would grow up hearing about how humans faced impossible odds, how they never retreated, and how they protected life with a strength and unity no one had thought possible. The galaxy had expected diplomacy. It had received a force of nature. It had expected caution. It had witnessed courage. And humanity? Humanity continued to move forward quietly, humbly, yet unshakable, a reminder to all that true strength lies not in weapons or numbers, but in heart, unity, and unbreakable will. And so, the most dangerous ship in the galaxy was not feared for its firepower. It was revered for its heart, its courage, and the humans who commanded it, ordinary beings who had become legends simply by being who they were. The galaxy would never forget.